Chapter 4. Politics. Before Jackie married, she didn't know much about politics. Now she was a senator's wife and wanted to learn as much as she could. So, she took a course in American history at Georgetown University. From the beginning, she took an interest in Jack's career, helping Jack practice for speeches, giving him tips on how to use his hands and voice. She also translated passages from French literature for Jack to use in his addresses. Jack began to rely on Jackie for more and more. Did she trust a certain person? Would she go on to an event in Jack's place? Being in front of the public wasn't something Jackie was always comfortable with. Still, she did it, and showed grace and confidence. In October 1954, Jack underwent back surgery to correct an old injury, but the operation failed. Then, an infection set in. Doctors told Jackie that her husband was going to die, but Jackie remained strong. She did not cry. Instead, she never left Jack's bedside. She read to him and told him jokes. Slowly, he became stronger, and 6 weeks later, he was operated on again. This time, the surgery was a success. It was a happy time in the marriage. The couple liked to discuss history and politics. Jackie convinced her husband to write a book about Senate leaders he most admired. She helped him with the research, took notes, and edited his writing. The book, Profiles in Courage, won a very important honor, the Pulitzer Prize. In 1956, Jackie was overjoyed to learn she was pregnant. The Kennedys bought a large house called Hickory Hill in McLean, Virginia. There was a swimming pool, and best of all, stables. Jackie got to work for fixing up the house, filling it with the antique furniture, and she decorated the baby's nursery in cheerful colors. 8 months pregnant, Jackie accompanied her husband to Chicago, Illinois, to the Democratic National Convention. There, the Democratic candidates for president and for vice president would be chosen. The election would be that November. Jack hoped he'd be nominated for vice president. It was a big disappointment when this did not happen. Upon returning home, Jackie was tired and stressed, and she was alone. Jack had taken off for a trip to Europe after the convention. Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her stomach. Jackie was rushed to the hospital, where doctors tried to save the baby, but it was too late. The baby died. Heartbroken, Jackie could no longer face living at Hickory Hill. So the Kennedys sold the house to Jack's brother and wife, Bobby and Ethel Kennedy. Always a private person, Jackie couldn't talk to her husband about her sadness, and Jack couldn't talk about it either. He traveled a lot, often leaving Jackie alone on the weekends. The Kennedys were growing further and further apart. Their interests were so different. Jackie loved culture and the arts, not politics. And politics was the fire that lit Jack Kennedy's life. Then, in July 1957, Jackie's father fell gravely ill. Jackie, who was pregnant again, went to see him, but she was too late. Her father had already died. Jackie did not shed a tear at her father's funeral. Yet she gave her daughter, Caroline, who was born on November 27, 1957, the middle name Bouvier. It was to honor her beloved father, who had been such a force in her life. 1 year after Caroline's birth, Jack was re-elected as senator from Massachusetts. He was a popular member of Congress, and soon his hopes were set even higher. He wanted to become president. Jack started campaigning often with Jackie at his side. Each time Jackie was scheduled to show up for one of his speeches, the crowd doubled in size. In the summer of 1960, Jack won the nomination as the Democratic candidate for president. Lyndon Baines Johnson, a senator from Texas, would run as his vice president. Television in the 1960s. On September 26, 1960, John F. Kennedy debated his opponent, Vice President Richard M. Nixon. This was the first time a presidential debate was on TV. Kennedy came across as strong, smart, and handsome. Nixon looked tired and hot. He sweated a lot. Jack Kennedy's strong performance influenced the outcome of the election. In the 1960s, most homes in America had just one television set. It was black and white. Most shows weren't televised in color until around 1965. The 1960s marked the first time people turned to television for news. For many Americans, the 1960 presidential debate was their first introduction to John F. Kennedy. Jack's nomination caused controversy in the country. He was just 42 years old. Many thought he was too young to be president. The president at that time, Dwight D. Eisenhower, was 70. Also, Jack was Roman Catholic. The country had never elected a Catholic president. Some people worried that Jack Kennedy might be influenced by the Pope, the head of the Catholic Church. Jackie, who was pregnant again, knew that her husband's campaign needed her help. She wanted to show the country that Jack was mature enough to run the country, and that his religion didn't matter. But Jackie was also scared. She did not want to put her pregnancy in danger. So she came up with an idea. She would work from home. Jackie organized 11 women in 11 states to help campaign for her husband. She wrote a newspaper column called Campaign Wife, in which she discussed education issues and what she would do if she became the First Lady. As the election drew near, Jackie understood the importance of making appearances herself. She did all she could. She gave speeches in Spanish and Italian and visited African American churches and attended their fundraisers. Jackie enchanted the crowds. Not only was she smart, she was glamorous. She had a simple, elegant style, wearing classic tailored suits and dresses, most often with pearls. Women across the country began to copy the Jackie look, down to her puffy bouffant hairdo. Jackie's smarts and style helped Jack win votes. Tuesday, November 8, 1960 was Election Day. The whole Kennedy family, brothers, sisters, Jack's parents, gathered in Hyannis Port to wait for the results. It was a close race. Jackie said that waiting for the votes to be counted was the longest night in history. At last, it was clear John F. Kennedy would become the 35th President of the United States. Jackie was only 31 years old, and now she was about to become the First Lady of the United States. Click on Chapter 5 next.